The program will begin momentarily. Please enjoy the following message from our sponsor.
The more we dare to dream, our work proves that insurmountable difficulties can be replaced with possible. That's why we start young with youth debit cards, preparing our future generations for innovating spaces. We've become relentless in uplifting the historically disenfranchised, shining light on education, women's empowerment, and community values. We champion our community to remain leaders in their respective industries by being a support that feels like home, a testament of belonging over banking.
Distinguished guests, welcome to the 2024 International Women's Day Luncheon in partnership with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, presented by Community Financial Credit Union. Please welcome the Chief Operating Officer of the Detroit Regional Chamber, Tammy Carnreich.
Thank you, everyone. It's nice to see your smiling faces here. Is this not just a beautiful facility? I mean, come on. Sunshine, water, now all we need is some better temperatures. But first, let me just say thank you very much. We want to welcome you to the Detroit Regional Chamber's International Woman Day event. We do this annually. It's one of our favorite events, at least those of us on staff that get to work on this program. And so we really enjoy that we get to see all these faces, the diversity of women and gentlemen who are with us today. And then we hope you saw the little added fun outside with the Wellness Hub. Just some really great things to go and see out there. And it's really important because we have to understand as women, wellness is very much a part of our success and us continuing to grow ourselves. So I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So first, let me say that today's program is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Blue Cross Blue Shield Michigan. Where are you, ladies? And our presenting sponsor, Community Financial Credit Union. Where's that group? Right up front. Hey, how are you? And I just want to make a quick shout out because as I was looking through the registration list and looking at the diversity of representation in the room, I also want to notice that we have some very, very hardworking elected officials with us today from the Wayne County Commission and led by Chair Alicia Bell. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. Representing us and for all that you must pack into your long days. So it's a privilege to gather you here today to celebrate women's achievements, contributions, and resilience all around the world. This year's theme, #InspireInclusion. Inspire Inclusion. Welcomes us to forge into a more inclusive world for women, one that embraces the diversity of race, of age, ability, faith, body image, and however individuals identify. We must continue to ensure that women are included in all fields of endeavor, breaking down barriers and challenging stereotypes along the way. Now, as I mentioned, we have the Wellness Hub, so that's new this year, and that was meant to explore your own personal well-being through the experiential different exhibits that were out there. I think I saw one particular person who didn't want to let a little kitten go, so that might still be out there. But those that are represented in the Wellness Hubs, again, Community Financial Credit Union. Wellness Works, which is very much a part of our organization and also in collaboration with Blue Cross Blue Shield Michigan. Maven, Henry Ford Health, Michigan Humane, Showtime Production Group, that's where they were all lined up going in the booth and doing their little 360, and then Maya's Flower Truck with Enbridge. I hope you enjoyed that. And they're going to be there for a while. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So if you haven't had a chance to see them all, they are going to be open after our programming today. And I want to lastly acknowledge our generous sponsors who made today's event achievable. And I'm going to announce you, and I'd like you to just stand. Let people recognize you because you really help make programs like this happen. So as I mentioned before, Community Financial Credit Union, right down front here. Come on, stand up. And then our gold sponsors, Enbridge. Where are you? Right there. And Rocket Companies. Where's our friends from Rocket? Here we are. More right down front. Our silver sponsor, Henry Ford Health. Where are you, ladies? And our bronze sponsor, who I have to tell you, I'm so amazed is here with us today, because I have to believe their days are getting very long and very stressful. Preparing for the NFL draft. Our friends from Visit Detroit, where are you, ladies? So, as I mentioned, we do have the Wellness Hub outside, and I want to make sure that you know that you were given a passport when you came in. And when you go to visit everyone, you'll get a stamp, and they'll be there after if you don't have your passport completed. And then you can put that in for a drawing for $250, I believe $250 from Skinforia Spa. How nice is that? We can all use a spa day, can't we? So if you haven't been there yet, you'll have time to do that. So before I introduce someone, I want to also remind you all of something so we all are prepared. 1 o'clock today is the Michigan Fire Drill across our state. 1 o'clock. So we'll kind of watch for that. Hopefully it won't disrupt any programming on stage, but if it does, we'll pause. We'll just pause for a couple of moments to allow it. I don't know how loud it's going to be. So next up, as we embark on today's discussions and activities, let us remember the tremendous benefits that diverse perspectives bring to our efforts. Let us listen, learn, and be inspired by the stories and the experiences of women from all walks of life. I want you to please help us continue today's conversation on social media by using hashtag #InspireInclusion and tagging us on social media at Detroit Chamber. So I thank you again for joining us at International Women's Day, such a magnificent event as we pave our way for a brighter future and a more inclusive future. I'm now pleased to introduce. Yes, maybe I'll produce her. Sounds like she's doing some great things. I'm now pleased to introduce Community Financial Credit Union's President and Chief Executive Officer, Tansley Stearns.
Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here with all of you this morning and share this space. I want to thank you for your leadership. I am the president and CEO of Community Financial Credit Union. And in the last few months, I've recognized how important it is to say those words. There are not enough women in executive roles. There are certainly not enough women that are CEOs. And the way that we change that is to allow folks to see what that looks like. If you haven't seen the Barbie Dream Gap project, find your Instagram over lunch. It really addresses what is a lid on girls' dreams. This is a picture of my daughter Mackenzie when she was the Lorax an awful lot of years ago. She's 13 now. But this gap happens from about the time that she was the Lorax and now that she's 13. And those dreams become smaller and smaller. And that impacts the statistics that all of us are fighting against. And while I know most of you don't go to bed every night dreaming about financial services, it is certainly what I do. And there are some important lessons to be learned. 51% of credit unions are led by women. That compares to 4% of banks. Now you may be thinking that's exceptional and inspiring news. It is, and the details tell a more complex story. You can see that as credit unions get larger, there are fewer and fewer CEOs represented that are women, and our boards have very few women represented. Now, I'm thrilled to tell you that our chairman of our board, Terry Keene, is with us here today. We are honored to represent something very unusual, where the woman that's the CEO is paired with a woman that is the board chair. We are thrilled to be unusual in that way, and Terry is an exceptional leader that pushes us to make belonging a core part of our values and who we are. And I've been talking about belonging at Community Financial since I began here in June of 2022. We are a human-first organization, and we make that happen because human capital is not the soft stuff. It is the thing that drives our business forward. That happens through community resource groups, through flexible scheduling, through remote work strategies, through exceptional benefits packages that include fertility options, and with a 10% 401k match, which matters deeply because most women find that when they reach retirement, they do not have what they need. And all of this led us to be honored as a great place to work for the very first time in 2023. Many of you may be familiar with something that happens at financial institutions, fees that are often called NSF, overdraft, or courtesy pay. These occur during those moments where earnings might be a little bit lower than expenses, which is very true for so many human beings right now with inflationary pressures reaching everyday Michiganders. And for financial institutions, those earnings that come from those fees can feel like a double shot of espresso. They infuse bottom lines. And they can have significant impact on human beings. A 2023 CFPB report demonstrated that single women, women with children, Black and Hispanic women, and women earning less than $60,000 a year are disproportionately impacted by these fees. At Community Financial, we believe that we must provide a better cushion. And I've invited our executive team to ignite innovation to think about these fees differently. And that's allowing us to tackle gender inequity issues. I'm proud to stand in front of you today to announce that on April 1st, these fees will be remarkably different in our organization. We're announcing our Close Enough account. And what that means is, if you're within $50, we've got you. This means that that paycheck to paycheck feeling, which can be so heavy for so many, is going to be dampened in our organization. And it means more money for living. The pressure to pay for gas, to pay for groceries, to pay for prescriptions can be eliminated a little bit. And our members can ensure that when they want to go enjoy watching their daughter run track and cross country, they can do so feeling a bit lighter. We're investing in women and their paths. And we're bridging the gap for 2/3 of Michiganders who identify as financially insecure. I believe that we can create a better world together. This is a picture of my mom, Liz Webb. She and my grandmother, Edith, worked hard, sacrificed, and made important decisions that have made my path a little bit smoother than theirs was. It is my commitment that my work every day ensures that Mackenzie's path is a little bit smoother than mine. I want to thank the Detroit Regional Chamber for bringing us together. Collaboration is the way that we carry forward. And I want to challenge each of you today. Please find a woman, either in this room or elsewhere, to shine a light on. We as women have work to do better, to shine those lights and stand together, because our world is brighter when we do. I want to thank you for your time, and it's now time to enjoy lunch. Thank you.
Please enjoy lunch and music from Florella Strings, sponsored by Rocket Companies. Distinguished guests, please welcome special correspondent and anchor at WDIV TV4 NBC, Christy McDonald.
I approve of the disco walk-up music. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you all. Everyone looks fabulous. I'm Christy McDonald from WDIV, Local 4. This is my 20,000th year emceeing this event. I have been with the Detroit Regional Chamber and their International Women's Day event since the very beginning, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be back. And it is lovely to be here in Grosse Pointe. It's just gorgeous outside. Remember, I do want to remind you, we are going to have that breaking news of a tornado siren at 1 o'clock today. So, you know, put your seatbelts on. We're all going to be fine. I've broadcasted through worse. But it's really great to be here with you today on a day that feels very much like self-care. I walked in, and the energy of everyone gathering flowers, and there were puppies. I mean, why there can't be puppies at my workplace every day, I'll never know. You know, I've been a journalist in Detroit for 25 years. And when I started as a young producer and a writer, and then I was a reporter in Flint, I thought my job was all about talking. All about talking, gesturing loudly, talking, showing people, telling people stories, and actually talking rapidly, which got me into trouble my very first day that I was on the air in Flint. I was doing a story, and I was very excited. Just picture it. I'm going to give you a flashback. Some really short, large hair, and maybe a dark lip liner, so you know where we are. We're maybe 1999 at the time. And I was doing a story on day traders, and the stock market was going up and down, and I quickly did my on-camera, and I said, Larry, back to you. Larry was our 5 o'clock anchor there at Channel 12 in Flint. And he said, Christy, and he asked me a question. I knew the question was coming. I knew it. And so I was ready to answer the question, and I said, well, Larry, what I was supposed to say to him was, Larry, just a couple of moments ago, I spoke with an investor, and he told me how concerned he was. And instead, I said, well, Larry, a couple of moments ago, I smoked with an investor, and he told me. I still have that on tape somewhere in my parents' basement of my first live shot doing that. Again, so I thought it was all about talking. But now if you ask 51-year-old Christy, who's standing in front of you, who's now worked in Flint at Channel 7 for 10 years, at PBS for 10 years, and now at WDIV, I'll tell you that my job is more about listening and helping make sure that diverse voices are heard, not the usual suspects that sometimes we cover, so that people feel valuable, and that whatever their story was, that it was told true. You know, whenever we get together, especially in the news business and media, it's so important that we are able to help reflect the community that we serve. And we do serve a community, and we serve a purpose. That we're not just getting the same people. If I'm talking about education, are we getting the same voices saying the same things? Do we take time to listen to the different voices? Because when you hear different people, and we have the platform to give it to you, when you hear from different people, you can start to understand what they think, what they go through, maybe they're not the loudest people in the room. And then that can start to create understanding. It can start to create a depth that we're sorely needing these days, especially in information giving. So whether we do it on the news or we do it in our offices every day, that I know that we're taking a break from today, yes. Who are we listening to? How are we listening? So I'll challenge you to think about that today when we do all of this talking and energy sharing, and bring that back to your places of work and to your communities, to listen to the different voices at the table. Who deserves the spotlight? Is it always the loud, always the talking? Or maybe it's the quiet, and maybe we need to listen a little bit more. So that's what I wanted to bring with you here today. Everyone has a voice at the table. Everyone does. And we have a wonderful panel of women here today who are going to speak to you about some of their journeys and how they've gotten to the place that they have and what they've learned along the way. And then after they each give a little bit of a TED Talk-like presentation, we're all going to sit down and have a conversation. And it's my favorite part because it's usually when stuff gets really real. It's my favorite part. So I get the pleasure of introducing each of our speakers here today. And I need glasses because I'm old. Does this happen to anyone else where I have like 5 pair of glasses all around my house? I'm like, where are my glasses? My child, they're usually like, they're on your head, Mom. All right. Princess Castleberry is a professional speaker, and she's a wellness and risk management consultant. She helps organizations equip leaders to improve decision-making and also reduce conflict. Also with us today is Neutrina Tate. She is the president and she's the CEO of Brand New Consulting. She is an associate professor at the University of Detroit Mercy's College of Health Professions and Macaulay's School of Nursing. She works on eliminating health inequities in childhood obesity in populations of color. Deirdre Young is with us here today. She's the Chief Diversity Officer at the College for Creative Studies and the Assistant Dean in the Office for Institutional Equity and Inclusion there. She advocates for quality health programming and social justice for marginalized populations. And Kumari Yao is here with us also. She is the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at Rocket Companies and the Chief Learning Officer of Rocket Central. She works on team member development programs along with DEI strategies for the businesses under the Rocket umbrella. I am prepared to be inspired and I am prepared to listen. So let's welcome our first speaker to the stage. Are you ready? Great.
Please welcome the Chief Executive Officer of Castleberry Global, Princess Castleberry.
Good morning, everybody. So as you've heard several times now, my name is Princess Castleberry. I am a global speaker and a wellness and risk management expert. I have had the esteemed privilege of being included for the vast majority of my career. Now, when we hear that word included, what does it mean? It means that I have always been able to show up as myself, thrive in the workplaces, even when people in that workplace did not exactly look like me. And it made me start to think of something. It made me start to think about this idea of getting into my zone. And I started questioning, how did I get myself into this zone? Now, raise your hand if you are someone in this room who loves to support other women, right? Everybody, right? Every hand always goes up. And so when we get into that zone, we love to support women and we start to like spew out these battle cries. We love to tell women to unmute, stand up, be bold, change, take up space, right? And we tell women to get outside of their comfort zones. And the moment I was able to transition my corporate career as an enterprise risk manager to the stage of being a global speaker, which was my childhood dream, I felt like, Mama, I finally made it. I pushed myself out of the comfort zone. And as soon as we get out of the zone, you know what we do? We start going up to other women. We say, Lori, get out of the zone. Get out of your comfort zone. Jill, get out of your comfort zone. Lauren, get out of your comfort zone. We start looking around and we start pushing each other and championing each other. And that genuinely, I believe, comes from a place of love. So as I started to rise and my star started to go up and people started to call my name, here comes Princess Castleberry, okay? Got the name from the husband. He's cute, isn't he? And I had to give him a shout out. And as I started to rise, I said, oh, wow, this feels amazing. It became a battle cry and a mantra. And then I realized there were some women that were with me, and they started to look more and more like me. They were the loud talkers. They were the ones that knew how to consume the air, how to speak up for themselves. And I started to realize that there were a whole lot of women who were starting to shrink around me. And I realized that my battle cry, the same battle cry that lifted my boat, was the same battle cry that was diminishing other women unintentionally. I was diminishing somebody else's star. Now the world tells you, girl, don't worry about that. Don't let somebody hold you back. But this is about inclusion, and there is no one better to include women than other women, okay? So it just rang that question in my conscience. Are we further excluding women who have not yet found their voice by pushing them outside of that comfort zone? If you don't feel like you measure up, it's a hard pill to swallow when somebody tells you to unmute, speak up. You haven't even found your worth yet. What about those women, okay? Too many women, in my opinion, have never seen their comfort zone. They've never even seen it. I submit to you today that the woman, the Black woman who earns 67 cents to the dollar, the Latina that earns 54 cents to the dollar of her white male counterpart, the Black woman or the white woman or the Hispanic woman that is bearing a child who doesn't have paid maternity leave has never been in her comfort zone, okay? Some of us have never seen it. And so it's time for us to actually change that battle cry and tell people and help more women get into the zone. Because when you're in the zone, something beautiful can happen, okay? Something really beautiful and special happens inside the zone. This is what happens for me. Okay, 8 things happen when you are in the zone. The first one is that you study yourself. In the zone, you get to know who you are, what you stand for, what you believe, and the agreements that you have sometimes consciously and unconsciously made. Those agreements are things that shape our entire identities, and they are the reason why we show up either very big, feeling confident in the room, or feeling like we don't belong there. They are learned, familial, and societal rules, and there is no human being that escapes the power of agreements, okay? When you study yourself and get in tune with your agreements, you start to know why you show up the way you do. Number 2 is that you start to invert your gifts. The world tells us to pour out our gifts, to give the world everything we have. Show your talents, wear them on your sleeve. And what I'm telling you is it is time to invert those gifts and invest them and let them circulate in your life the way that the blood circulates throughout your body to keep you alive. Invert your gifts and talents in your own life. You need to reconcile your past, okay? That is not a blue or red pill. There is no silver bullet to reconcile your past. That requires work, time, and dedication to self. Next, you sharpen your decision making. Women make an inordinate amount of decisions. We are deciding mergers and acquisition, what goes on the news, what stories get featured, all the way down to the damn chicken nuggets for dinner. We are making too many decisions, and we need to sharpen and hone up our decision making ability. And next, we learn how to manage our stress naturally. There are practices like progressive muscle relaxation, deep breathing, and meditation that are free and natural, and we need to be doing those things every day to protect ourselves. We need to manage healthy conflict, engage in conflict. Conflict is a tool for growth and innovation and just an incredible way to collaborate with people. We need to erase the stigma that conflict is something negative. It is inevitable and it is powerful if you use it in the right way. Next, we need to do what I did for a living for 22 years, which is identify risk. A risk is the possibility of harm or loss to something of value, and an opportunity is just the other head of that very same coin. There are so many opportunities right on the opposite side of your biggest fears. Start to identify your fears, get grounded in them, tie them back to one of your old agreements, and then work through them. And then last but not least, we are going to crush the scarcity mindset because we live in a world that God has created abundant. There is an abundant amount of time, energy, resource, and value in the world. And it does not matter if you are with a loudmouth, capitalist Capricorn like myself who knows how to get on center stage and take up a whole lot of space. It doesn't matter what other type of woman is in the room. When you are in the room, there is space for you, and that's how you do it. Thank you very much.
Please welcome the President and Chief Executive Officer of Brand New Consulting, Dr. Neutrina Tate.
Hello, everyone. Have you ever felt invisible? How many in this room have felt invisible? And when I say invisible, it's as if people are looking through you. Not to get to know you, but because of what you look like on the outside. And they already come to their notions of who you are and what you all about. So I'm going to ask you all that again. Who in this room has felt invisible? Everyone, I'm sure, can raise their hands. I'll never forget, I'm a nurse. Let me just start there. And going to nursing school, not too far away from here, my very first time being away from Metro Detroit, I'm born and raised here. Went into my very first patient room, had my stethoscope around my neck, also had on a white lab coat. And instantly, what my patient said to me for the first time that I ever experienced an ism, here's my menu. There's the trash. You can pick up the trash. How do you think that made me feel? I felt so invisible, so not worthy. Being talked over in the boardroom, being talked over and looked over, being a checkbox and being something more or something less than I already am. Dimming your light that you knew was in you, that was established in you from the time you were in your mother's womb, in order for others to feel more secure about themselves. You feel invisible. I have felt invisible. Inclusive. And thinking about being inclusive and feeling included, who in this room has felt excluded as if they have not had a place at the table? Who in this room has felt that way? Many of us have felt that way and not even realized it. So many times being traumatized and being gaslighted and having fragility projected onto you just because of you being who you are. As a nurse, I have to tune into my empathetic pathways. I have to make sure that in order to feel included, I need to make sure that everyone around me feels included. I have to put myself in my patient's shoes and anyone else who I'm around because I know how it feels to be excluded. Yes, I have felt excluded. But in order to get over feeling invisible, in order to get over feeling excluded and to feel included, you got to be invincible. You got to put that together and you got to create your armor unlike no other armor that there is. If there are cracks there, you're kind of like Wonder Woman. I don't know how many of you all know about that superhero that you love, but Wonder Woman, that's my girl. That's who I try to channel whenever I feel someone is trying to get into my crack. I don't know about you, but I'm a recovering perfectionist. And you hear what I said, a recovering perfectionist. And what did I do to be a recovering perfectionist? I'm all about striving for excellence now. Excellence means doing the best that you can with the circumstances that you have and even beyond. That is what makes you invincible. I'll never forget, I'm an only child. My father, who's a military sergeant, watching him die in front of my face and I couldn't do anything about it. Watching this strong man who, through his time, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, led so many troops in the war. To see him fall in front of me and to let out this yelp of help that only me, my husband, and my mother could try to pick him up, that broke me. To see my mother now, who's a nurse, strong woman, She could look at me to this day, and I'm 50, and I still shudder. I'm watching her become a shell of herself because she has dementia that has riddled her brain, and now she is not the woman that I remember. But I take that strength that they instilled in me, and I am invincible to be there, to be included. And what that invincibility does, it makes me feel invaluable. I'm a neutrina. I bet you I'm the first and probably will be the only neutrina that you will ever meet. N-U-T-R-E-N-A. That's a whole nother talk about how I got my name. But with that name, I know what my voice is. I know what my uniqueness is. I know that I am different and I love it. Sometimes because you are so unique and you know your value, Princess, you know your value, Deirdre, you know your value, Alicia, you know your value, Marianne and Elizabeth, people are gonna hate on you, especially if you negotiate your worth. Don't let them do it. Let them hate on you. My pastor always says, when you have haters, it means you're doing something right. You keep that to fuel you. And guess what? It's not your fault that they didn't know how to negotiate and that they didn't know their value. That's not their fault. Inclusively empowering women to start up their own business is what I do at Brand New Consulting. I teach people to be the leaders that they were born to be. I now have my very first client who's been my mentee for 25 years, who is now a multi-million-dollar grant writer. And she's my first 25K client. And I love helping her out. I'm honored to work as part of my consulting business with many of the healthcare systems that have sponsored this event, as well as in this organization, to help those healthcare workers, 5,000 plus now, across the nation even, to tap into their implicit biases and understand how it affects their patient health outcomes and how it continues to bridge, and not even bridge, but really create that gap of health disparities. I am so honored to do that because of the embarrassment that my father put in me at 5 years old, putting me up to order my McDonald's meal. Telling me to speak it out loud, guess what that has created? For me to be invited on March 20th, 2024 to the Detroit Regional Chambers International Women's Event. You gotta be incomparable because I am woman. Hear me roar. No one compares to you, whether that's Prince's version, whether that's Sinead O'Connor's version. Nobody compares to you. You ultimately have to know your brand. You have to know what you stand for. People see you coming before you enter the room. We are a part of a sisterhood, a solidarity, a movement around the world. Woman is a beautiful word, so much so that if I was speaking Swahili, I would say nwake. If I was speaking Spanish, I would say mujer. If I was speaking French, I would say femme. If I was speaking Italian, I would say donna. If I was speaking Portuguese, I would say mulher. If I was speaking Haitian Creole, I would say femme. If I was speaking Indonesian, I would say wanita. And if I was speaking German, I would say Frau. At the end of the day, like I said, I am woman. Hear me roar. And when we think about this, we know, and I'm telling you now, and I want you to hug yourself real tight. Everybody, even those who texting right now. Hug yourself real tight and say, I know who I am. I know what my value is. And I know that I am included, I will include, and I am inclusive. Thank you all very much.
Please welcome the Chief Executive Officer and Assistant Dean of the Office for Institutional Equity and Inclusion at the College for Creative Studies, Dr. Deirdre Young.
Good afternoon. I invite everyone to discard anything that's in your hands, and I want you to rub them together right now. I want you to close your eyes, and today's we're thinking about inspiring inclusion. I want you to think of a word or an action that you can do today to inspire inclusion. Set your intention now. Keep rubbing. Now I want you to take your hand and even put them to your hand, to your head and your heart. All right? Because it takes love, it takes commitment, and it takes a lot of thinking in order to execute on what I know everyone's going to execute on. So today I'm bringing my multicultural background. I am both indigenous, I am both African American, I'm also from England, if you can believe that, ancestrally. And I honor that. I'm also used she, her pronouns, and I am a woman. And I am here today to talk to you about why not inclusion. All right? So my girlfriends all know that whenever they ask me to do something, I say, why not? Really, think about it. Someone asks you, why not? What is preventing you from doing that thing? Maybe you don't do it that second. Maybe you put a pin in it. But you can do it if that is something you desire to do. So I invite you all to think about why not inclusion. So, you got to practice what you preach. And I said, well, I'm thinking about what I'm going to talk about. Maybe I should include other voices to the conversation. So I take myself and I walk into the marketing department, this beautiful open space with all of these different voices and perspectives, and I go, yes. What does inclusion mean to you? Oh, Dr. D, I mean, that's really loaded. And I go, well, come on, let's think about it. I was thinking equal pay for equal work, but what are you thinking? One of the males said, well, sense of belonging. Another person talked about that kindergarten perspective. Treat people the way you wanted to be treated. I go, oh, this is okay, this is good. Someone said, what about that common goal where you get everyone collectively to think about something? And I said, ooh, I can connect that to crucial conversations. What else? You got this. We're gonna end there. You got this. Because everyone in this room, what inspires me, I think about an abolitionist, a woman's right activists. In 1851 in Akron, Ohio, there was a speech delivered, powerful speech. Ain't I a woman? Think about the words. Look at this part. I have as much muscle as any man. Pause. I can do as much work as any man. Well, that's the truth. I think about how I got here today. I have plowed and reaped and husked and chopped and mowed. And can any man do more than that? 1851. Someone speaks up. Think about that. That's powerful. Buried in Battle Creek, Michigan. Sojourner Truth. History of Progress, 1938. Well, let's go. That's the minimum wage. That's when it was established. Overpay or for overtime. This is amazing. Let's go to when President Johnson did an executive order. What about 1972? Title IX, we're familiar with that. You can't discriminate, right, on the basis of sex in educational programs and all of those initiatives. Any institution that receives federal dollars. We know about 2009, former President Barack Obama signs to make sure that we can actually reap the benefit of the lack of equal pay, that there's no limits on that. Oh, that's great, right? More work to be done. When I look over at the statistics and I see, oh, it's trending up. We're doing amazing things. In 1982, the gap actually starts to shrink even more, gets more narrow, but it's still different. We are still 82% low for African American women, 70% low for Hispanic and Latino women, 58% lower. It's still there. What can you all do about it? Well, there are some things that we can do, and we're going to talk about that. Sense of belonging. Don't just rely on your DEIB office to think about belonging. What can you do in your office to ensure that everyone is a part of the conversation? Ask them about their day at the water cooler. That costs you nothing. What about the elevator? What about when you're creating the next program? Why don't you ask them what they think the theme should be? What music should be played? Who should we invite to this event? Include them in the conversation, include them in leadership opportunities. This is a critical factor in order to get the success that you want to see in your business model. You can do it in a department of 5, and you can do it in a department of 500. It is absolutely possible. Respecting others. Ooh, that kindergarten. What do we learn? Share. Oh, and I'm not just talking about sharing things. Share your ideas freely. Be open to receiving those ideas freely. Share your time, share your talent, share your treasures. This is the things that you can do. What else? Play fair. Ooh, that's a whole nother TED Talk on what is equitable and what is fair. Put things back. You take something, you take an idea, don't just put it back. Why don't we celebrate that and don't co-own it if you didn't create it, but if you did create it, why don't we celebrate everyone together? Because everyone, look at all this light. It's light everywhere. It is infinite. We can all shine together when we're working together on that what? Common goal. Framing that conversation, making sure that we're having productive conversations. I believe these are the tenets. I'm going to go through them quickly. Start with yourself. What's your bias? What's coming in the room with you? Something is there. Pause, think about it. Recognize that there are different perspectives. Teach empathetic listening. That's another TED Talk. De-escalation techniques, all right? Provide counseling. All these companies here. What is that mental health space? I just learned about Henry Ford and the caregiver thing. Thank you. I'm going to be calling you all about that because I am, in fact, a caregiver. But we need to have these things that are bringing people together towards the what? Common goal. All right, so every company, right, we have these KPIs that we have to deliver. This is the percentage. This is the shared metric. Okay, we can galvanize around that common goal, can we not? But what can each person bring in order to achieve that common goal? Their diverse perspective. And all these women in here, we have some perspective. Why? Because we mean business. Let's talk about that. 42% of all U.S. businesses are owned by women. That's nearly 13 million. Women are 3%. Let's talk about it. 3% more likely to start a business than a man. Gross receipts for women-owned employer firms have increased by 51.9%. Women-owned businesses employ over how many? 9.4 million workers. Let's keep going. Thank you so much, PwC. Thank you so much, Lean In. Thank you so much, McKinsey Foundation, McKinsey & Company for these statistics. And it is estimated that 849 women-owned businesses open every day. So what I learned is we got this. Say it. You got this. Look at Oprah. She said the biggest adventure you can take in life is to live the life of your dreams. When you thought about that word, did that get you one step closer? That action that you thought about closer to your dream? I can't define what success looks like for you. I don't know what your dreams are, but you know them. Create that path, common goal, include others. Don't stop. And one day you will. Think about in the darkness, what do you need? You only need to see just as far as your headlights extend. As long as you keep going, you are enough. Don't let anyone tell you differently. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Regional Chamber.
Please welcome the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer of Rocket Companies and the Chief Learning Officer of Rocket Central, Dr. Kamari Yole.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just because I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just because I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, all right. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh. Does it come as a surprise that I dance? As if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling and bearing in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, wow. There I go.
Good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon. I am a reflection of every one of you. So what you give me, I project back to you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We bring the weather. We set the tone and we change the atmosphere. We are women. We are proud, we are amazing, we are beautiful. And so, I'm going to talk about the 3 B's of self-care: beauty, brilliance, and boundaries. Today, we celebrate International Women's Day. And as we do this, we embark on a journey not just of recognition, but of profound understanding and appreciation for the depth, the complexity, and the resiliency of women, not just in this room, but everywhere. And so you may be wondering, how did I land on just these 3 B's: beauty, brilliance, and boundaries? So beauty, it transcends the superficial. We reach deep into the essence of who we are. See, beauty is not defined by external standards, but by the light within us, because it shines so bright. Even in the darkest of times, our light shines bright. It's the compassion that we show others and the kindness we bestow upon ourselves. It's embracing our beauty, meaning acknowledging our worth, our uniqueness, our right to be loved and respected for exactly who we are. My grandmother, when I was younger, see, I thought I was fly. I was like, I'm out here, I'm in these streets, I'm cute. And my grandmother told me, she said, external beauty is fleeting. And if you just rest everything on your looks, you're going to get old, baby. And you won't have that. So I want you to focus on what's inside of you and embrace that. See, beauty is not confined by the glossy pages in a magazine or all the things that our kids see in social media, or real talk that we see in social media. It's the spark of our soul. It allows us to shine authentically as we are. Remember, I said, I am a reflection of you, and you are a reflection of me, our lights. I walked in and I was rattled. I was stressed. My day didn't start the way that I wanted it to start. And I rolled up in here stressed and rattled because I allowed the world to impact me. And I should have made this the 4 B's, because when I sat down at this table with these beautiful women, the 2 on the side of me, Dr. Deidre and Christine, tapped me and said, breathe. It's okay. You're here. Y'all may not have realized what that did for me, but it allowed me to center myself. We don't always understand the impact that we have on others. That was an example of beauty. So let's go to the second B, which is brilliance. Brilliance is the light that we carry within us. It is the unique blend of our talents, our intelligence, our creativity, and the wisdom that we bring into this world. In real talk, nobody does it like women. We don't just birth babies, we birth ideas, we birth concepts, we birth life. But not just in the physical. And that is an amazing thing when you have that power. So you have to lean and stand strongly into that power. See, brilliance is the voice in our song, our hands in our creation, our minds in innovation, and our hearts in compassion. Brilliance is not just about the accolades or the achievements. It's about making an impact, big or small, in the lives around us. Sometimes we get so caught up on, did you see me? Did you know what I did? Because the thing, it just has to be big. But I'm telling you, the small gestures still allows your light to shine bright. Brilliance is about igniting change. It's about fostering growth and shining in our authentic truth. And remember that every woman's brilliance adds a unique hue to the spectrum of humanity. And that takes us to the third B, boundaries. Oh, I love this word, boundaries, because boundaries, it's our sacred space, the lines we draw with courage and clarity to protect our peace, our energy, our well-being. They are not walls, but gates that allow us to interact with the world from a place of strength and self-respect. Because I can't expect you to respect me when I don't respect me. Setting boundaries is an act of self-care and respect. It teaches others how to love us, how to enter our space with kindness and empathy. I always say people will only treat you the way that you allow them to treat you. Boundaries allows us to say no with as much confidence as we say yes, to honor our needs and to navigate life on our own terms. And I'm going to say this again in a slightly different way. Boundaries is understanding and standing firm in the fact that no is a complete sentence. No is a complete sentence. So as I end, I want you all to let beauty be your armor, brilliance your path, and boundaries your shield. Together, let us embark on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and transformation, because we manifest the world that we want to live in. We all deserve to be in a world where we are celebrated, where our brilliance is recognized and our boundaries are respected. So, I have a poem. In the mirror of the world, let my reflection show beauty in my soul, brilliance in my glow. Boundaries set so firm yet gentle as the breeze. In the dance of life I move with ease, for I am woman, fierce and free. In the tapestry of eternity, I weave and leave my legacy. Thank you.
Joining Kamari on stage, please welcome back Princess Castleberry, Neutrina Tate, and Deirdre Young. And to moderate the discussion, please welcome back Christy McDonald.
I was scribbling furiously in my binder. I'm like, that's okay, we gotta talk about this. We gotta talk about this. I'm really so happy to have you all sitting up here. I took something that each one of you talked about, and I wanted to get to inclusion, and I have about 20 questions on one side, but I want to start actually with something, Kamari, that you brought up. You just let us in on how you felt walking into this room, and raw. It wasn't, she's got it all together, she's figured it all out, the speech is perfect, she just ran in here hot and everything is fine. Because I've skidded into more than one room the way that you did. But what is it about revealing that authenticity to all of us, which could have been construed as a weakness of not having it all together? Because I think it was, Deirdre, you also said, we all walk into the room with something. That's right. And a perspective. What is it about being able to share that, and how do we find that to be able to reveal that in our business place, with people at work, and in our community that is not a weakness? And let me start with you, and I'll go down the line.
Real talk, I'm tired. That's right. Like you grow up and you're taught that you have to be this way. You have to be polished. You have to be all put together. And I realized that when you do that, people, one, then have a false expectation of you that you've created, so you don't have room to fall or falter. It also puts a lot of stress on you. And so now you end up creating a world that's not real, right? Like I show up as this perfect person, then you feel that you have to be this perfect person. But in reality, we're all trying to deal with stuff. And so for me, it's about being okay with the fact that I'm not perfect, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that I'm not striving for excellence to be the very best that I can be.
You know, Neutrina is a recovering perfectionist. I see you. But being able to reveal that with the people that we work with, I think that's also part of that fine line that we walk.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know, being vulnerable, I've learned that you get even more respect. When people are really able to see who you are, they know all the fancy, the frills, the sharp suit, the bad hair, they know all of that. But when they're able to relate to you and to see that vulnerability, you get more followership, you get more people to believe in you, and more people to even exalt you. That's what I have found.
Deirdre, what do you think?
Oh, I agree. When Neutrina was up here speaking, we are friends and colleagues. She hinted on something, a personal experience with her father. I had the exact same experience. And so in that vulnerability, I'm also empathetically listening. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Neutrina, don't do it, because I have this mascara. My sister just did it for me 6 minutes ago, because she lives up the street. Thank you, Aisha. I know she's watching. But it's the connection, because now I hear what she's saying. I understand where she may go. I'm ready to get her a piece of tissue if she needs it, because we need to still be there. It's strength in honesty. Yep. Yeah. You know, I walked in today. Elizabeth, thank you, Elizabeth. She's amazing helping to organize this. My daughter has a chronic condition for the past year and a half. My life has been around 12 different specialists. I've been in the hospital with my daughter living for 3 weeks, and I am still here. She had a new symptom arrive yesterday, and the only appointment available with the endocrinologist was today at 9:20 a.m., but I needed to be here. And I thought about the privilege of that I had a car, that I could pay for the copay, that I had insurance, that my mom at 83 can still drive my daughter to see the doctor, that the doctor was open to doing a virtual meeting in my car so I can speak. So though there was a lot of things that I could say was wrong. I think about all the things that are right, and all the privilege. Even I sit here, privileged. All of us are breathing, privileged. So I think that we need to think about how we really connect. It is okay to be weak, because weakness is really strength, because at the end of the day, we are who we are, and that's what makes us real. And that's why we can connect with so many people. Just like all of you are connecting. At the tables, I heard you when I was walking through, learning about each other. This is real. This is our moment.
Right. Where you want to pick up on that?
Listen, my parents named me Princess, okay?
Princess.
And so the name Princess creates an agreement, right? So remember I said agreements are learned, familial, and societal rules. So when your name is Princess, people expect for you to walk into a room and behave a certain way. Even when you're an adult, even when you're in a corporate setting, even when you're leading the team, Princess, right? So the name can be heavy, okay? But we've been labeled with many, 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 many things. Mom, woman, sister, caregiver, provider, lover. Oh, name some stuff that you've been called. Chicken nugget maker. I got kids. Kids don't care about any of this stuff.
No, they
They just want to know what's for dinner and what shape, and is it breaded or grilled, okay? They don't care. And so what I think about it is that we just have so many titles. And when we try to pretend that we're just a speaker, that we're just an executive, that we're just educators. I call this panel 3 Doctors and a Princess. We just want to pretend that we're 3 doctors and a princess, and that we're not people that get hurt, that we're not. Sometimes I'm married now, but I've been a divorcee. I have, a great husband who lives in the house and helps raise a family, but I've been single mother. I am a woman that can provide for herself, but I have lived in a poor state.
That's right.
Okay, so I've been many, many things, and I think that's what's important to know, is that we are not a monolith. We are a spectrum of things, and we're just trying to include all of those things.
And not be afraid to identify that.
No,
where we are. And I'll be the first person to say that I would love to stream the 3 Doctors and a Princess show. I would watch. Again and again.
I'm manifesting.
Well, you do know someone who does streaming things, so I mean, we can talk about this afterwards. Okay, something that also stuck out to me, and again, as we kind of take this journey down the road of looking at inclusivity, knowing your value, bringing that up. That is very difficult. It has taken me a very long time, and there are days that I still waver on what I believe my value is and how do I make sure that others know. Deirdre, let me start with you. When you hear that question, how would you talk to someone about who maybe can't quite find it, articulate it, or bring it to the space that they're working in?
Well, I would go to one of my mentors. He said to me, Deirdre, this was before a contract negotiation, said, Deirdre, do you think that I think about what I'm going to say before I go into the room and say what I want based upon my skill set? I don't think twice. Why are you still thinking about it? You know your worth. You have how many degrees? You are a practicing diversity person, but also you're a dentist, like a full licensed dentist from the University of Michigan, president of your class. So let's think about that.
I was going to say.
What is your worth? Like you're doing dentistry on the side on the weekends, or like serviceman. How many people did you just see? 75 in Grand Rapids before active deployment. So you are service oriented, you're all the things. But I invite all of you to consider, what are all your things? Why are we thinking about our worth? We know what it is. We know what the range of that salary is. We know if we're in the beginning, the middle, or the end. Let's just be real, but be real with yourself and say, this is what I expect. No one else is thinking about it. Why are we? That's what I would say.
Yeah. She's negotiating my next contract. Kamari, what about knowing your value and the path that you have taken through your work? How did you come to, I guess, learn that for yourself?
And then I think it goes back just my grandmother and just what was instilled in me of just knowing my worth. right? And understanding how to leverage the tools that are provided to you to be able to demonstrate that. Like, so to Deirdre's point, like I don't think of like, well, what is, I know I'm standing 10 toes down in that. I've worked hard, right, to be at that table, to be in that room. And so you have to walk with confidence and know that. I think the first thing, though, to your point, is assessing it for yourself. That's right. Because if you don't know your worth, then you're going to go any way the wind blows, and people smell that. It comes out like garlic on you. And so when they recognize that, oh, you don't know your value, you don't know your worth, then that puts you in a position where people then dictate to you based upon what they feel you are worth. So you have to do your research, you have to understand like what it is that you're bringing to the table, and then stand confidently in that.
That's right.
Princess, let me jump over to you. What do you think about that in terms of how you've been able to walk and saying, knowing your value and growing in that? Because again, I think of, I'm going to put myself back into 25-year-old Christy, who had no idea even how to have the conversation with myself, just saying, thank you, someone wanted to hire me.
That's right. I have the privilege of, like I said, working for 22 years as an enterprise risk manager. And by nature of the role, we are inquisitive. We ask questions. So when my leaders would ask me to take on additional responsibilities, I would ask them, what's that worth to you? What's that worth? What does it cost the company if this doesn't happen? They needed me to do the job. I was uniquely positioned in my field, and I think worth is about positioning, right? We live in real world, right? This is business. And so while we all have intrinsic value and we know that we are worthy and we have all these accolades, business still has to get done, and business has a cost. When you look at a business, you're evaluating, the possibility of harm or loss to things of value. Look at what companies value: their people, their purpose, their profits. So tie that directly to the projects that you're asked to do. If you are an entrepreneur like me and somebody's asking you to come in and speak, what's it worth? What are we trying to accomplish together? Put yourself right in the mix. And I get people to tell me how much they value what they're asking me to do. And if they don't value it, then I don't do it. If they do value it, which they do, because that's why they're asking, then we start talking about what happens if this doesn't happen. What happens if your leaders are not confident, don't make better decisions, can't manage stress naturally, can't reconcile conflict? What happens to your bottom line? And when we establish that, now we start talking about the contract. I never come in talking about my value until I understand what's worth to them.
Neutrina, let me ask you, and we all have the privilege of sitting up here, being at a certain place in our careers and having, gone through a lot of the pitfalls and figured a lot of things out. Was there a point in your career path, maybe, years ago, that you said, aha, this is my value and this is why it's so important for me to assess it for myself?
Absolutely. It's kind of twofold. I had to think about, even outside of, my career value, my foundational value of me as a person. And I always hear my father, every time, whether it's my career, whether I'm in a relationship, you ain't no pipsqueak.
That's right.
You are not a pipsqueak. You have standards, you have respect, you have things that you have done. You have worked hard for what you have. And you know that it is only one you. And so I go in with the price, let's say, to now transition that to a career. I kind of have my ideas because I've done my research. I know what the market says out there for this position. And then I go in there and I say, well, what does your budget allow? And then I go from there and negotiate. And then I say my price, and then we have leeway there. But before that, I was nervous. I mentioned that in the speech where I said it, I got it. People knew because I was a part of a public university, and they hated on me. And I definitely had some civil types of experiences because of that. I had to learn it wasn't my fault, that I knew how to negotiate. And I continue to work with my friends and my colleagues whenever I am, going forth to negotiate or to do something. They call me too. Even someone who's here in this room right now, I talked to her about that. And she has helped me also in knowing and understanding my worth. So my village, those who surround me, I definitely make sure that they are a part of the decision-making that I do as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Princess.
I wanted to add another point on negotiation. This is something I learned, and I want every woman to hear this. When you have the audacity to put an offer forward and you say, I'm going to take on this project or this work for X. Sometimes people will say, no, that is not in the budget. And then they will toss it back to you and say, try again. That is not negotiation. Negotiation is point to point. If I have the audacity to put forth a number, a scope, and a value, and you tell me no, then you got to come with your budget. Now you have to put your cards on the table. Make sure people put the cards on the table and they don't have you dancing and jumping through hoops to try to figure out their number. We can establish respect right away. If I put out that number, you say no, then what is it? Let's be real. Let's get right to it. That's how you cut through all the clutter in negotiation.
Absolutely. I love this is financial value, also personal value. And then we talked about authenticity and how we show up with our own stories. And that kind of leads me to the conversation of inclusion, because it feels like, we're preaching to a room who wants to hear this, who is ready to listen and try to bring people in. And how do we further that? But how do we bring it to the rooms where maybe those conversations aren't happening? How difficult is that? And how do you break down the walls to get people to start to listen, Kamari?
One, for me, I like to understand what people are. Right? You got to first assess, well, where is the individual? What's important to them? I was just talking to my VP yesterday about this very conversation, and I said, well, when you break it down, and I love, Deidre, how you did it, you put it down into kindergarten. When you talk about DEI and inclusion, and it becomes very polarizing, but when you get down to the bottom of it, every person that you come into contact with wants to feel included.
That's right.
They want to know that they belong there, that they can have a voice there. And when you break it down to that basic level, it allows us to start having a real conversation around, well, where are the opportunities for us to do better? And then when we talk about business, now I got to speak like your language, right? Like, yes, there's a moral imperative, but it makes just good business sense, right? And so sometimes we can come into the place very myopically, not understanding the person that we're engaging with and like what matters most to them as a way to start the conversation. And then we can start walking back to this place because we want to create change. But if I just come at you and say, you're not inclusive, you're not this, you're not that, well, they're not going to hear anything that I have to say. And in our positions, our job is to get you to open up, hear us, and then create change for all of the people we're responsible for.
Neutrina, what about you, coming from your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking that I'm a committee chair of a national organization of DEI. And we've had this long conversation of no longer using DEI because we want to be heard. We want to be listened to. And so we've talked about inclusive excellence. We've talked about humanity. And especially within this realm, this is within a pediatric nurse practitioner realm, we've had to have children at the helm of this. So now we're talking about human values and human equity and everyone having that right to the best health possible. And that's been a hard conversation considering what the environment has been lately. To say that diversity now is a bad D-letter word. And so we've had to kind of like Kamari said, really assess the situation so that we can make sure that at the end of the day, we are heard.
Deirdre?
Yeah, thinking about both of the perspectives, I'm gonna go, how do you connect it to SMART goals and key performance indicators, all right? Let's get to business, all right? So right now, at my institution, we just completed a DEIB audit. And so I asked every department, what are you doing in the space of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging? Not what am I doing, what are you doing? And how can the institutional office support your goals of your department, right? So now they're seeing themselves in the work. As an executive coach, I work with different companies, and I say, how do we tie it to salary at the executive level? So if we are saying, my goal is to move this business, this widget, to make more of them at, half the cost, that's great. What's your goal for DEIB? And how do we tie it to your salary enhancements? How do we tie it to succession planning opportunities? How do we tie it to your bonus that you're going to get? So asking the question and making sure that it is measurable is going to be key and attainable. If it's not, what is that office, the diversity office, the inclusion office, doing to help that department achieve that goal? Because at the end of the day, I believe, and I think we all believe, I'm not going to speak for everyone, that inclusion gives us more successful business outcomes. That's what I believe. That's why I can sit up here and talk about it, because I actually believe it in my core.
Yeah. Princess, how do we bring more people to the table?
So I'm a storyteller, and I like to create analogies. And one of the best analogies I've used recently is that everybody just wants to be a celebrity, right? And the reason why we like to be close to celebrities is because they give us, if you just imagine your favorite celebrity, right? And they are inviting you to be here today and sit right next to them. Like, get a real clear picture of who that is for you. If that celebrity called you up and said, come sit next to me, be my friend, let's
Wait, are we talking about Ryan Gosling? Are we talking about
Ryan.
I was just wondering. I was asking for a friend.
For you, we are.
Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
We want to be close to Ryan Gosling because, A, he's fine. I mean, husband, it's okay. Ryan is fine.
He has it on.
A, but the reason why we want to be close to celebrities like Ryan Gosling is that they give us access to privilege, opportunity, and influence. And if you are a person in your organization that has privilege, opportunity, and influence, you can readily extend that to people. And the brilliant example I love to give is Oprah Winfrey. She is a star who understood, and don't argue with me about whether or not you like Oprah, but Oprah is somebody who elevates other people. Yes. And it's a perfect analogy because the stars that she's elevated did not look like her when they started out. Dr. Oz did not look like Oprah. Dr. Phil did not look like Oprah. Neither Rachel Ray nor Nate Backus. They did not look like her. They didn't have her platform, but now they do because she extended her star power. And it's a perfect example because we see that in her extending her star power, it did not diminish her at all. It did not take a nickel out of her pocket. It did not get her show canceled. It did not shrink the pie, so to speak. And those are the fears that people are worried about. They're worried about their piece getting reallocated or redistributed to the black lady with the suit on. It's not happening. This world is abundant. That's why I said we have to crush the scarcity mindset. It is because you are afraid that you're not going to have this little tiny thing that you are afraid to share. When the world is vast, money is limitless. You just have to know how to access it.
Yes.
That's what we need to do.
Yes. You know, whenever I get in a room like this and get a panel in front of me of tremendous and successful women, I am always driven of the thought of how do they do it? I struggle with, I'm a widowed parent of 3 teens. I work full time and I'm told constantly to lean in. And I have found that I am finally leaning out, and that actually works better for me. I feel more productive. I feel more creative. I'm doing a more focused work when I'm able to not be all in all the time. And I want to ask each one of you, how do you care for yourself, and how do you either lean in, lean out, or whatever philosophy you have to make yourself, I guess, present the way that you are right now and keep the balls spinning in the air? Sometimes they drop, I get it. But Deirdre, let me start with you.
Well, I just say I don't have it all together. And that's okay. Yeah. You know, you have to be okay with not having it all together and being real with yourself. I literally just look in the mirror like, it's gonna be okay. And it's a saying I do with my friends. I know it's from a movie, Finding Nemo, but just keep swimming, just keep swimming. So that is my kind of motto, just keep swimming, especially now 1 year, 3 months. With the situation with my daughter, yes, I'm counting, because I know one day a cure is going to happen. Right, so on that day, I'm going to know that day too, because it's coming, which goes into my faith. Faith is also something that centers me and helps to keep me grounded, because there are days I want to scream, just like today, when yet again we still don't know the diagnosis after such a long, painful time. So, but it's okay, because I can see all the positives. I see your beautiful faces. It warms me. I don't even know you, but I can feel your energy. So my third thing is feeling the energy in the room. When I'm low, one of my good friends are high. And when all of them are low, we go, I don't know, watch a chick flick or something so we can just bring it back, bring that laughter back into the room, and bring our sales back into the room. All of our sales, because we already talked about the sad parts, but we have all these dynamic parts on top of the sad part that we need to acknowledge too. So we can't stay in the pity party. It's okay, because I'm gonna give you the tissue, but I'm also gonna be your number one cheerleader too. And I'm gonna find the space when I have it to give and honoring that. And sometimes I just say, I don't have it today. Like my girlfriend knows. She's sitting over there. I don't have it today, but she's like, I'm gonna be here for you. I'm gonna support you. And I feel Dana's energy. And thank you, Dana, for being here.
Great. Kamari, let me ask you.
So first thing, it's perspective, right? It is having the perspective and recognizing that this is a moment in time. You hear me talk about my grandmother a lot because she was so instrumental, but it was the belief that the storm doesn't last always, the pain doesn't last always. And so it's the ability to understand that this is like, you just gotta get through it and lean into the goodness that you've experienced. The other thing is when I took on the second role, I got a lot of questions from folks of like, are you gonna be able to do it? And I used to say, I had to keep my head on a swivel. I just gotta keep my head on a swivel. And then I realized, one, that's tiring. If you just like keep your head on a swivel, like, so thinking about how you talk to yourself. And then I said, you know what? I can only catch one ball at a time. That's right. You throw 10 balls at me, physically, I can only catch one. So that's what I'm gonna focus on. I'm gonna focus on that one ball. And then the last thing is I used to have FOMO, right? That fear of missing out. And a good friend of mine flipped it, and now it's this JOMO. It's the joy of missing out. I don't need to be. That's right. I don't need to be in everything. I don't need to go everything. Like, catch me up on that later. I trust that you got it, and that ability to delegate, not just at work, but also in your personal life with your family and figuring that out. But like that JOMO, it just feeds my soul when I just find that I didn't need to be in that meeting or go to that event, and I'm good watching my little Tubi and hanging out. So.
Trina, what about you?
Automated responses are my favorite friend. Electronic vacations are my favorite friends, usually on Sundays or after 8 p.m. because that's all my boo time. And people know, usually, sometimes I do have those 8 o'clock, those 9 p.m. meetings. Yes, I do. But for the most part, they know my office hours are 9 to 5. And I'm hustling. I am, everything to the wall. But just like today, I knew that, I had this event. I have a lot of meetings after this, but at 6:30, it is like Fred Flintstone and the dinosaur. And I will be watching Netflix, Hulu, something to just recharge, rejuvenate, and get ready and up and going at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Princess, how do you protect your energy and get your energy, I guess?
3 words, if you didn't catch it when I was rattling off earlier: progressive muscle relaxation. It is a relaxation technique that has been around for more than 100 years. It came out after the last pandemic. It is scientifically proven to relieve stress, headaches, insomnia, depression, anxiety, and is used to treat cancer pain. I learned about it because my mother is a breast cancer survivor. It is the biggest gift that I can give you. Shameless plug, if you go to my YouTube channel, there is a video featuring me and my husband where I want to demonstrate it. One of my missions is to get everybody in the world practicing progressive muscle relaxation. It triggers and trains your parasympathetic nervous system to simply relax when the body senses stress. Biggest gift of my life. It's what keeps me balanced.
Yeah. And puppies.
And puppies.
Yes. Here at events like this. All right, we only have about 2 minutes left, and I'm just going to ask each one of you just to give us your last takeaways. What should we be walking out of this room with? Let me start with you, Princess.
Get into your zone. Get into your zone. The battle cries are real, and you will have plenty of opportunities to get out, but get into your zone first. Get very grounded and strengthened in who you are, and when you're ready, we will be out here ready to push you along.
Okay, Neutrina?
Know your vision, know your values, and know your worth.
All right, Deirdre?
Find a quiet place where you can think and think about what's next. And it's okay if you need to stay there a little bit longer. Don't judge yourself. Don't let all the other naysayers and all the negative things cloud that space. It is your space. It is sacred. Take as much time as you need, and please breathe while doing it.
I love that. Kamara, you get the last word.
Give yourself grace.
Yes. It's a perfect way to end it. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you take all of this energy, bring it back to someone that you love. If it's back at your workplaces today, we so appreciate your time. Have a wonderful afternoon. Enjoy.
Thank you.